Hello, hello, everyone. Hello, and happy Monday. Welcome to today's Q&A. I hope that you are doing phenomenal. I hope that you are having a great day. I hope you have had a good start to your week. For those of you who are catching the live in real time, welcome. My name is Susanna Briscoe-Alba, lead career strategist at Dunamis Coaching and Consulting Services, where we teach you how to land six-figure roles through leadership development and career strategy. And today we're going to be tackling career strategy. So if this is your first time here, I want you to drop a 1 and tell me where you are joining me from. Drop a 1 and tell me where you are joining me from. If this is not your first time here, if you are true to this and not new to this, I want you to drop a 2 and tell me where you're from. So if this is your first time here, I want you to drop a 1 and tell me where you are from. If you are not new to this and you've been rocking with me for a while, I want you to drop a 2 in the chat and let me know where you are from. We are live in a couple of places. We are live on Instagram, we are live on LinkedIn, and we are live on YouTube. So if something were to happen and we are to get disconnected, know that you can find me on LinkedIn and you can find me on YouTube as well. So I am looking forward to connecting with you guys to answer your questions. You submitted some really awesome questions and they were around 3 topics really. So I'm going to break it down by 3 topics. The first topic was surrounding like resumes and how to make your resume stand out. The second topic was surrounding PIPs or a PIP. If you've been placed on one, what to do, that kind of thing. And then the third one was surrounding ageism and no degrees and that kind of stuff. So I'm going to break that down here in a little bit, just kind of answering your questions. And then the last one, which I got, if I can touch on, I will touch on today. And it's pretty much how do you negotiate an internal role? So that was the themes that I saw from the questions that you guys submitted from the Q&A that I asked you to submit your questions to. So I see that there are folks joining us from Amsterdam. There are folks joining us from Pennsylvania, but Brooklyn born. Hey. There are people joining us from Jersey. There are people joining us from France. There are people joining us from Houston, Texas. ATL is in the building. Syracuse is in the house. Trinidad and Tobago, South Africa. Hey, friends. Argentina is in the house. I am excited to connect with y'all. I need to clean my glasses because I have a huge thumbprint and I see like 40 of y'all. Phoenix, Arizona is in the building. Hey, friends. Washington, D.C., Toronto, Barbados. Listen, I am excited to connect with all of y'all. Charlotte, North Carolina is in the house. Thank you for your time and attention. I really do hope that every time you join one of these lives, the questions and the information that you receive helps you to be better and show up unapologetically in the places and spaces that you are called to. So I hope that you would share this with someone else who is in the search or in the search process, that you would share this information with them so like that they can find success in their career journeys as well. So we're going to get into subject matter material here. If you can hear me and see me well, can you drop a 3 in the chat? If you can hear me and see me well, can you drop a 3 in the chat? If you see me looking down throughout, it's because my questions are here and my cameras are here. So my computer is in front of me. But if you can hear me and see me well, can you please drop a 3 in the chat and let me know? Okay, Instagram can hear me well. LinkedIn and YouTube can hear me well. Okay, beautiful. Okay, I want to make sure you can hear me so like that we can get into the questions that you have submitted. Okay, so one of the questions that I got was surrounding applying to an organization that has listed multiple roles. What should you do if there is an organization that you're interested in and they have multiple roles that they are interviewing for or hiring for? Should you apply to all of the positions? Should you apply? How many should you apply to? Here is my suggestion from a hiring manager's perspective. I would say that I would encourage you to make sure that you are not applying to a sea of positions at the same organization. I would probably limit you to one or two positions at the organization instead of applying to all of the positions that are open. And the reason that I say that is because as hiring managers, regardless of working in different departments, if we work for the same organization, chances are that we're looking at resumes at the same time. And if you are applying to a variety of positions within the same organization, as a hiring manager, that sends a message to me that you lack focus and you really don't know what you want. I'm going to say that again. As a hiring manager, if you are applying to a bunch of positions at the same organization, it's going to send a message to me that you don't know what you want and that you lack focus. And so for me, if I am considering that type of candidate and I find out that you applied to a variety of different roles within the same organization, I'm probably not going to continue to proceed with that application because to me, it reflects that you lack focus. And it could be that all you want to do is get your foot in the door at this organization and be able to work your way up. If that is in fact what you are trying to do, then I would encourage you to then leverage your network so that you're doing that in a smarter way instead of applying to a whole bunch of different positions, hoping that somebody will pay attention, because that will scream desperation instead of actual instead of actually sharing the fact that you are in fact qualified for the role. And please hear my heart for you. I don't want you to think that if you've done that in the past, it's too late, they won't consider you. They very well may do so. But what I want to caution you with is not to find yourself in a place where you're constantly applying to one organization and you're applying for 4 different roles, because that's going to send a message that you don't know what you want. You're just desperate to get a role. And so that may not be your truth. And so we don't want that to necessarily be the message that is coming across. So that was the first question that I got. The second question that I got was surrounding a career gap and how do you address a career gap? So when it comes to your career gap, I want you to be aware that one of the things that we are going to ask you about your career gap is what have you done in that time to keep yourself marketable, or what have you done in that time that is relevant to the role that you are applying for. So it's not so much that we think that you may not be qualified for the role. It might very well be that we just want to make sure that you have the relevant skills that are necessary for the role that we are hiring for. Okay. So I want you to be aware that when you are addressing your career gap, speak from a place of how have you kept yourself marketable, so like that it makes the most sense for the role that you are applying for. Okay. So if you are applying for, I don't know, a call center type of position, or if you're applying for a retail position, or if you're applying to a sales role, any of those roles, make sure that you are applying or speaking to, and you have a career gap. Okay, and you have a career gap, make sure that you're speaking to how your skills are relevant to the position that you are applying for, instead of highlighting the fact that you have a career gap. This is not the time for you to go into a whole lot of personal information. Oh, well, my child was sick, I was tending to a family member, I got laid off from another position. Like, that is not the place for you to go in and share all of your personal information. If there's nothing else that you get from this live today, I want you to get this. Keep your personal business personal. I'm going to say that one more time. And if you're following me, I want you to drop that in the chat, help somebody else. Keep your personal business personal. Keep your personal business personal. So when it comes to addressing the career gap, I want you to speak from a place of your skill set and how it's relevant to the role that you are in. If you got laid off, if you were caring for a family member, if life happened, which more often than not is what a lot of people are dealing with, I want you to address that from a perspective of affirmation that you are the skilled person for the role. So while I enjoyed my time at this previous organization or working on these previous projects, after considering this role and this organization, this is why I think this is the best move for me. So that's the way that I would word it. So you need to practice what is going to be the most comfortable way for you to be able to say that, okay? Because a lot of people, because they don't practice, y'all, interviewing is a sport. So you need to be able to practice how you will respond to certain things. And so because a lot of people don't practice going into an interview, when they get confronted with that type of question, they get really nervous and they start sharing too much. Keep your personal business personal, okay? So I want you to be aware of that. The next one that I got, let me see, where is it? Is what to do if you've been put on a PIP. Okay, now I know a lot of you follow me, and you may not be aware what a PIP is. Okay, a PIP or a PIP, as they say here in the United States, is pretty much you've been put on a performance improvement plan. That's what PIP stands for. Okay, so if you are one of my tribe members, I want you to help me with putting that in the chat. PIP stands for PIP stands for Performance Improvement Plan. Okay. And I'm going to give you the T on what you should do if you get on a performance improvement plan. Okay. Because for a lot of people, PIPs, especially here in the United States, PIPs will make you feel really uncomfortable. And if they are executed poorly, they will make you feel as if you are unqualified. Your confidence will take a hit, and it'll leave you feeling like, okay, what do I do next? I'm not sure where to go. I'm not sure who to speak to. Okay. When it comes to a PIP, when it comes to a performance improvement plan, if you have a manager who in fact wants to see you do well, they will know how to execute that wisely. But if you get put on a performance improvement plan and you are not under the leadership of a manager who actually wants to see you win, I would encourage you to start to prepare your documents so like that you can prepare your exit strategy. Okay? A performance improvement plan. If you are put on a performance improvement plan, that should be a signal to you to start to prepare your exit strategy. Because more often than not, performance improvement plans at their heart are designed to help the employee improve. But in some organizations and with some leadership, performance improvement plans are enough for us to collect data to help you on your way out. And so if you don't want to be blindsided by that, then you need to make sure that you stay ready. So if you've been put on a performance improvement plan and there has been no discussion, the conversations have been tense, nobody's been giving you a lot of information, likely, my friend, you are being shown the door without being shown the door. Okay? So what you need to start to do is you need to start to prepare your documents. Prepare your resume, prepare your cover letter, prepare your elevator pitch, prepare your network, start leveraging who are the people in your network, not just your professional network, but your personal network. So like that, when you have found a new opportunity, you're not surprised when they tell you thank you, but no thank you. Your role here no longer exists. You have already started to put a plan in place. Here is where a lot of people struggle, and I can understand it, but I want to shed light on this. A lot of people struggle because they feel the need to defend themselves. And instead of defending yourself with data, you defend yourself with emotion. And so what happens with you defending yourself with emotion is that you start to you let your emotions blindside the way that you make decisions. Okay? And so when you start to get to this place where you have to get on the defensive and defend everything that you're doing and your emotions are leading, you will inevitably you will dig your own grave. So if this is happening to you, or if you have been put on a PIP before, you know how much that impacts your mental well-being, your emotional well-being, and the type of work that you do. But instead of you looking for every reason to blame someone else, I'm going to encourage you to mind the business that pays you. And the business that pays you is you. So they may be able to control what is happening in the environment where you work. That does not mean that they have the ability to control how you start to search and prepare your exit strategy. Okay? So instead of trying to defend yourself with emotion, this is why I tell my tribe to make sure that you have an evidence list, also known as a work tracker. Because when you stay ready, then you don't have to get ready. Okay. So if you are on a performance improvement plan, I'm going to highly encourage you to start an evidence list. What are the tasks that you are working on? Who have you been working with? What accomplishments or achievements have you had prior to this PIP? Okay. The PIP does not define you. You are still capable of doing good work. The issue is that you have not been documenting your work. Okay. So if this is helping anybody, I want you to write helping me in the chat, because I know how emotional we can get when it comes to a PIP. If this is helping you, I want you to type helping me in the chat. And here's the other thing that I want you to do. Do not keep it to yourself. Share it with others. Because PIPs, unfortunately, don't always lead to the employee moving up. Okay? So when you hear PIP, you know what it stands for. It's a performance improvement plan. But it should also represent for you papers in preparation. That's what it should stand for you. Get your papers in preparation. Make sure that you have your exit strategy well equipped, because PIPs are emotionally draining. And here's the part that I don't think enough people talk about. They're emotionally draining for the person going through it. And as a hiring manager who has had to deal with PIPs before, they're also emotionally draining for us. Because there's one thing, I don't know where this came from, y'all, but there's one thing that I can tell you is that I do not go to work in hopes to prepare or to monitor or to have to chastise employees. That's not what I go to work for. It's not what I went to work for before when I was in an office, and that's certainly not how I operate in my business right now. So the last thing I want to do is put somebody on a PIP. Quite honestly, I would much rather work on helping you prepare your documents and helping you find a new opportunity if that is something that you are open to. But most people, when they're put on a PIP, they struggle because they want to defend themselves. And I can understand that. That is a natural response. You want to defend your work. You don't want to be taken advantage of. You want to have a certain level of control. But some environments are not conducive for that. So you need to release that and start to prepare what is your next best move. Okay? What is your next best move? And here's the other thing that I hear a lot of people do or say. I've heard people be like, well, I'm just going to go to HR and HR is going to have to listen to me. And for my hiring managers and for my human resource professionals who follow me, I love y'all. Okay. But I will tell you, as a hiring manager, HR is going to come to us, the hiring managers, because why are you all of a sudden in their office? What is going on? Can you give me more context as to why this employee is disgruntled? Or why do they feel that why do they have all of these emotions? And I can tell you, as a hiring manager, y'all, I used to tell my team this all the time. By the time someone gets to me, they're either really happy or they're really annoyed. And 9 times out of 10, Y'all, if you're watching me on YouTube and on LinkedIn, I don't know where these balloons are coming from, but by the time they got to me, they were either really annoyed or really happy. And 9 times out of 10, they were really annoyed. So if your first line of defense is that you're going to go to HR, HR is there to protect and mitigate risk for the organization. You need to start to operate as an organization and identify how you will mitigate risk and protect your organization. Fair? I spent a lot of time on that, but I want to make sure that you understand where I'm coming from. So if that's fair, I want you to write fair in the chat. Like that, I know that you are picking up what I'm putting down. Okay? Because I don't want you to get blindsided. PIPs at their heart are intended to help a professional succeed. At their root, that's I want to believe that that's what they're created for. But if you don't have good leadership, you will fall subject to somebody being in their emotions, either the manager or yourself. So just make sure that you're prepared. Make sure you have an evidence list. Make sure that you are updating your resume and your cover letters. Make sure that you are leveraging your network. Don't wait until they tell you thank you, but you know thank you. You already have a plan. Okay? All right. This is another question that I got when it comes to folks having no degrees and looking for a new opportunity. So, if you are the type of individual who has been able to move up the ranks and you have been able to leverage your skills in this type of market, but you don't have a degree and you're looking for a new opportunity, I'm going to encourage you to make sure that you are building a network, either a personal network, a professional network, or a combination of both. Because in this type of market, it's going to be about who you know, and who they know, whether you have a degree or not. Because I know people who have degrees and they have been applying to 9 million jobs and they're still not getting new opportunities. It's about who you know and how you leverage that network of yours. Okay. So if you're in a season right now where you are looking to move into a new role, you have all of the skill sets, you can identify your transferable skills, but you don't have a degree, I'm going to encourage you to leverage your professional and your personal network. Here's why. The reason that I want you to do that is because you likely have worked with, engaged with, supported individuals who have now transitioned into new roles or new organizations, and they still are very fond of you and your work ethic. And so if you are new to my tribe, there's 3 types of people that I encourage you to pay attention to. One is going to be a nice to know, a need to know, and a connector. Nice to know, need to know, and a connector. You need to break down your network into those 3 people groups. And once you've identified who those people are for those people groups, this is how you start to activate your network to make your next move your best one. Okay? Especially if you feel like you are struggling with ageism, especially if you feel like you don't have a degree, but you have all of the experience and nobody is paying attention to you right now. Start paying attention to who is in your network. And a lot of people will start to tell me, oh, well, I don't have LinkedIn, or I don't have a network. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. One of my more recent clients got a VP role because her daughter-in-law was connected to a hiring manager who connected my client to a decision maker at the organization. That daughter-in-law is a connector. And here's the thing. She wasn't even aware that my client was as capable as she was. Why? Because we don't spend enough time letting people know what we're good at. Because we don't want to be prideful, or we don't want to be boastful, and we get too concerned with what people will think. You need a village. This is why you need to identify who's your tribe, your nice to knows, your need to knows, and your connectors. So that when they speak about you, when they come across new opportunities, whether you have a degree or not, they can identify that you have the skill set that is needed to solve said problem. And that is my prayer for everyone who follows me. Whether you follow me on LinkedIn, whether you follow me on Instagram, whether you follow me on YouTube, I pray that your network would speak your name in rooms filled with opportunity, filled with opportunity. Because when you have had that type of network, your network will and can possibly impact your net worth. But if you are surrounded by people who have limited thinking or scarcity thinking, then scarcity is what's going to follow you all the time. Limited thinking is what's going to follow you all the time. Struggle, strife, what else? Bad thoughts. Those are the things that are going to follow you all the time. And I'm going to give you an example of what that shows up like in our life, okay? Because I think that that impacts a lot about the way that we just approach our career search, okay? So in many cases, when you have gone out with certain people, you will come across people who are like, let's say there's something that you like, a camera, a car, something, and they'll be like, oh, you could never afford that. According to who? Because how do you know whether or not I can afford it? And if that has been your thought, then I want you to reframe that thought and start to think of, instead of I could never, how can I? Instead of I could never, how can I? And the same, when you start to think that way, how can I leverage my network to get into a new role? How can I be more marketable and speak about my skills with more confidence? How can I connect with someone who's going to show me the right? That makes your brain start to think about possibilities and options. I could never, or you will never, immediately shuts you down. And so instead of seeing new opportunities, what you see is a whole bunch of closed doors. So take your I could never or I can't and start to think through, how can I? And I promise you that that will change the way that you start to observe not only your job search, but how you connect with people. Because some people in your network, instead of helping you to raise up, they're sucking you dry. And then you wonder why at the end of the day you're so tired, why you can never, every time you hang out around these individuals, you feel so depleted. This shows up at work as well. Pay attention to the people at your job that you're hanging around with. If you feel like you always need to perform around those individuals, that may be an indication that it's time for you to change that mindset. So, going back to the original question, how can I leverage my skill set even though I don't have a degree? Leverage your network. Okay? And ageism is a very real thing. But here's one thing that I want you to be aware of. On your applications and on your cover letters and resumes, we won't know your age unless you share that information with us. So 9 times out of 10, you got to break that ageism thought down in here before you start applying. Because I know people who are like, Susanna, ageism is a real thing, so I'm not going to apply. So you rather stay stuck? Help me help you, because I don't get that. And while the job market is tough, I'm not going to sugarcoat that for you. Finding a job right now is hard. It's not impossible. So this is why I want you to reframe the way that you see that. Ageism is real. This is why I tell you to keep your resume relevant to the role that you are applying for. And anything that's older than 10 years, you do not need to have that on your resume. Unless you are applying in the US, unless you are applying for like an academic role or a federal position. That's the only except, and even there, I will make certain concessions. Okay. But 9 times out of 10, when I hear people telling me, "Oh, well, I'm 47 or I'm 60 or I'm 55 and nobody's going to hire me," you've already made that decision for them. You need to leverage your skill set. What are the skills? What are the expertise that you have that you can now become a solution to a problem? Okay. And so a lot of folks start to think through just position and title instead of skill set and solution. I'm getting off on a tangent, but I hope that this is helping somebody today. I hope that this is helping y'all today because I want you to be equipped. If you are not equipping yourself and making sure that you're leveraging your network, updating your documents, connecting with the right people, you're going to find yourself alone. Here's another place where I find a lot of people struggle. You're doing this by yourself. Y'all, the reason that I share and I teach the way that I teach is because we were meant to be in community. We were meant to be in community. And so when you start to leverage a community, this is why I teach you about your tribe, your nice to knows, your need to knows, and your connectors. When you have a tight community of the right people, then you can start to make decisions and start to make moves from a place of confidence and affirmation instead of a place of desperation. Okay. And a lot of you are worried about like your resume and what does that all look like. Here's what I'm going to do for you. On April 10th at 7 p.m., I'm going to be hosting a resume bootcamp. All you have to do, if you're watching me on this live, I'm going to share, especially if you're on IG, if you're on IG and you comment the word resume, I will send you the link with all of the details to that bootcamp. Because in that bootcamp, I'm going to tell you what you should be paying attention to. What are some of the things that I, as a hiring manager, like to make sure that are on a resume that I am looking for? So like that you're equipped. And if you're a part of my newsletter tribe, I might just even review your resume in real time. Okay. So this is why we do things in community. So like that, you're not trying to figure this out on your own because it's hard. I'm not going to lie to you. Finding a job right now is difficult. But if you're doing it by yourself, you're amplifying that difficulty. Get yourself in community and get yourself with people who will hold you accountable. So like that, you're not trying to figure this out by yourself. Okay. So on April 10th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to be hosting a resume bootcamp where I'm going to take you behind the curtains, how I look at resumes, what are the things that I'm paying attention to, what are the things that I would not encourage you to have. I want to make sure that you are aware. Okay. And if you sign up for the resume bootcamp, not only do I do all of that for you, I'm also going to give you a resume template, the one that I share and the one that I agree with. Many of you are going to be like, but it's so basic. It should be basic. We only spend 6 to maybe 8 seconds skimming through a resume. So let's make it the most impactful that we can, right? Okay. So if you're commenting resume on IG, you should be getting a link from me for you to join us at the bootcamp. Here's the other question that I got. How do you leverage or how do you negotiate an internal role? Right? So how do you negotiate or how do you negotiate for an internal role? What I would encourage you to do, especially if you are looking for an increase within an internal role, first do your research. So typically, internal roles can see increases anywhere between maybe 5 to 10% of their current salary. This is why I encourage you to be looking for a role every 3 to 5 years. But if you're going to stay internally, do your research. Do your research in terms of what is the market value for the role that you are currently in. And if you scroll through my IG page, I did a video on that. But what is the market value for the role that you are in? What have been the accomplishments or the problems that you have been a part of in terms of the solution that you've provided, not a part of the problem? So what are some of the solutions that you've provided since you started? And thirdly, where was the role or the work when you first started, and how has it changed over the time that you've been in charge? You need to have this information because when you get before your hiring manager or you get before the decision maker who can approve an increase for your position, you need to be able to discuss those things. Okay. So start to do your research. Start tracking your work, y'all. Start tracking your work. Okay. Start paying attention. I'm going to give you a couple of examples when I'm telling you in terms of tracking your work. Okay. So if you are a teacher, because I have a lot of educators who follow me, my background is in higher education. That makes total sense to me. If you are an educator and you're looking to pivot outside of the classroom into a more corporate setting, I need you to start paying attention to your students' metrics. How did they like what did they do? Did you increase the rate of them being able to read? Were you able to increase or improve relationships between the parents and the teachers? Did you work with administrators or administration to be able to make changes that were impactful to the lives of the students? That's the type of tracking that I need you to pay attention to. And for my teachers who are like, I don't know how to do that, more often than not, your state or your district has certain metrics that you should be following. So you need to be paying attention to what are those metrics at the beginning of the year and where did you fall at the end of the year? How many students did you work with? How many other teachers did you collaborate with? How many administrators did you cross paths with? What conferences did you attend and you learned new skills? So teachers, please pay attention. Okay. Secondly, for my folks who are like, Susanna, but I don't have a job that has metrics. I'm more of a non-management type of role. I can understand that, but there are still projects that you are responsible for. So how many of those projects are you responsible for? Who have they impacted? How many people have you worked with? So for example, I had someone who was like, oh, well, I don't have a management role, but I'm responsible for making sure that we have relationships with certain hospitals to make sure that students have placement upon graduation. Okay, how long have you been in that role? 5 years. How many students per cohort? 60. How many placements have you been able to get for those students? Each one of my students have been successfully placed. Those are metrics. Fireworks and everything. If you're watching me on IG, if you're watching me on LinkedIn and YouTube, I don't know where the fireworks are coming from, but I hope that you can pick up on what I'm trying to tell you. Sometimes it doesn't necessarily need to be a sales number. It's more of the work that you're already doing. Okay? So if you have a non-managerial role, you still have projects that you are responsible for. If you are a receptionist and you are responsible for picking up phones, receiving packages, greeting new customers, scheduling meetings, managing calendars, track that. Whose calendars are you managing? How many clients are you dealing with? What is the volume of phone calls that you are comfortable handling? How many emails or inboxes are you responsible for? Who are you having conversations with regularly? It's one thing to tell me that you're having a conversation with a fellow colleague. It's another thing entirely to tell me that you are a part of high level conversations with CFOs, CIOs, anybody in the C-suite. Is this making sense? Am I helping anybody today? I sure hope y'all are picking up what I'm putting down, because I think what happens is that we just go on autopilot and we just assume that well, if I put my head down, and do my work, people will notice. No more quiet working, baby. Announce that from the top of the mountain. Let everybody know what you're doing. Okay. So I hope that this is helping y'all today, because I don't want you to feel like the work that you do is unimpactful or not meaningful. They would not have hired you, friend, if your work was unimpactful and it wasn't meaningful. They would not have hired you for the role. Okay. So I hope that this is helping you. Secondly, for those of you who are going on interviews and you're like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. I'm so nervous. I don't know what to say. I don't know if they're going to like me. The first thing that I want you to be aware of, even before you step foot for an interview, if they've called you for an interview, it's because they already think you're qualified. Okay. So type that in the chat so you can help your friend. If they've called you for an interview, it's because they already think that you're qualified. So if they're already reaching out to you, it's because you've got the sauce. So own that. Okay. Own that. I can totally understand you feeling nervous, but you not valuing your worth. Come on, sis. They wouldn't have called you if they didn't think you were qualified. So the other thing that I want you to be aware of is that when they call you for an interview, it'll happen in one of three ways. It's either going to happen in a phone screening, like an actual phone call. It's either going to happen on a Zoom call, similar to what we're doing right now, or they're actually going to call you into the office. It's going to be one of those three ways. It's going to be a regular phone call. They're going to ask you about 3 to 5 questions. It's going to be a Zoom call. Again, 3 to 5 questions, or they're going to invite you to come into the office. If you're joining me at the boot camp, the workbook that you get with joining me at the boot camp already tells you what questions they're going to ask you, and I'm giving you answers, and I'm also giving you a space for you to practice your responses. At the beginning of this live, I told you interviewing is a sport. You need to prepare. You need to prepare. So don't just apply willy-nilly and then freak out when they call you for an interview. By the time they call you for an interview, you should know the answers. You should know what stories you want to share. You should know which metrics you want to share. But a lot of people don't teach you that. And so a lot of people are online saying a whole lot of, and still leaving you more confused than when you started. And the reason that I'm sharing this is because I've seen some recent videos of other people who claim to be hiring managers and claim to be coaches, and it's a whole lot of crap. And all they are is after your money. You work way too hard to let somebody else fill your head with a bunch of lies. So make sure that you track your work. Make sure you are paying attention to your skills. Make sure that you are paying attention to what stories and what metrics you want to share, so like that you are impactful. Okay? So to wrap up, today we talked about what to do if you got on a PIP and how to prepare. We talked about applying to multiple roles at the same organization. That just makes you look like you have no focus or you lack direction. Be mindful of that. Thirdly, we talked about how to negotiate for an internal role and what you should be doing and how you should be preparing. And fourthly, we talked about breaking down the lies that we believe about ourselves in here, as it surrounds ageism, as it surrounds feeling stuck, and as it surrounds going from I can't or I would never to how can I. So if there's nothing else that you captured today, there's 2 things that I want you to be aware of. April 10th, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I'm going to be hosting a resume bootcamp. Comment the word resume on this live on IG, and I will send you the link for you to get all of the details to the bootcamp. Okay? And then the second thing that I want you to be mindful of is that I want you to reframe the I can't to how can I? How can I speak from a place of confirmation and affirmation instead of desperation? How can I leverage my transferable skills so that I can transition out of this environment into another? How can I leverage my network and identify my nice to knows, my need to knows, and my connectors so like that I can make my next move my best move? So instead of I can't, we're going to reframe that with how can I? Okay? So those were the major topics that you guys asked me about in all of the questions that were submitted. So I want to make sure that you are prepared. If you are watching me on LinkedIn and you're watching me on YouTube, I'm going to drop for y'all in the link in the chat how you can join us for the resume bootcamp. Okay. So give me 1 second and I will drop that for you so that you can join us, because I really do want to be able to equip you so that you can win. Here's the other reason why I want to equip you. The reason that I want to equip you is because if you don't know, I am hosting a women's conference on June 25th and June 26th. And there will be organizations who are looking for talent. I need your resume to be A1. You cannot come to the conference and say that you follow Susanna and there's an opportunity and your resume looks rough and tumble. Because they're going to be like, ain't that one of your followers? You're not about to be out here talking about, I'm your coach and you not ready. Come on, sis. Okay. So I need you to be ready, so that we can get you into your next best role. Okay. So if you are watching me on LinkedIn and you're watching me on YouTube, I just dropped the link for y'all in the chat for you to be able to join us at the Resume Bootcamp, because I want you to be prepared. And if you're on a PIP, if you're going to be joining us at the conference, if you just need a resume refresh, this is going to be relevant for you. If you're a part of my newsletter tribe, likely I'm going to pull one of your resumes and review them in real time. So all in all, it's going to be a good time. April 10th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we're going to go into Resume Bootcamp, because on IG and on LinkedIn and all that other jazz, I can't share my screen. I can't teach y'all that way. I want to be able to give you real examples, and it's going to be the opportunity for you to be able to ask me questions in real time. So today, to recap, we went over applying to multiple roles at the same organization. We went over what to do if you get put on a PIP. We went over what to do if you are looking to secure a raise from an internal position, right? And then we went over what to do if you don't have a degree, but you have a lot of skill set. Okay, we talked about all of those things. If, my love, you just got here and you're like, what is this woman talking about? I'm late. Don't you worry. I'm going to save this live. It'll be on my IG, it'll be on YouTube, and it'll be on LinkedIn. Okay. So like that, you have access to it. Watch it as many times as you need to, share it with someone else, and make sure that you are preparing yourselves. If you stay ready, when an opportunity comes, then you don't have to get ready. If you have to get ready when an opportunity comes, then you are late. Okay? If you're with me, I want you to write okay. Okay? If you're with me, I want you to write okay. Because I need y'all to be ready. I need you to be ready. So if you're with me, I want you to write okay. Because I want to make sure that I'm not leaving you hanging. Okay? All right, y'all are with me. I'm trying to get through some of y'all questions. Some of the questions that are in the question bubble on IG, I already answered. So if you came late, just start from the beginning and you'll get the answers to some of these questions. One last one before we go is surrounding what HR can and cannot do, because I got this question a lot, and I won't have enough time to break this down. But here's one thing that I want you to be aware of: when human resources or hiring managers are connecting with previous employers, like your previous employers, we can only get a certain amount of information, and that information more often than not is to verify your dates of employment. We cannot ask, no, especially here in the United States, we typically are not asking, why were you laid off? Were you a problem employee? Like, that's usually not the information that we're asking or looking for. We're 9 times out of 10 confirming the dates either that you put on your application or that you put on your resume. But if you got laid off, if you got fired, that's not going to be something that we're going to be calling our other HR friends and be like, hey, can you give me the tea on why Susanna got laid off? Or can you give me the tea on why Susanna got fired? That's actually quite illegal here in the United States. Okay. So if you're worried about that, I hope that just gave you a little bit more peace. What we are trying to do is we are trying to confirm the dates of employment and to verify that you, in fact, worked where you said that you worked. Okay. Now, if you have some issues and you're concerned about what they will say, a guilty conscience needs no accusing. If you know you were wrong and you did stuff dirty, then try to rectify that. Okay. You're an adult. However, if you're more concerned with what will they say, how will they say this about me, then you need to start to, not you need to start, that's not information that here in the US we would be privy to, because that violates certain privacies. Okay. So unless you are applying, the only thing that I can think of where that level of information would be necessary would be for like a job with the government to a degree. And even to a degree, there's only but so much information that can be shared, because companies do not want to open themselves up to a legal case. Because if you can prove that somebody was bad mouthing you or saying something crazy about you and your work, you may have a case on your hands. And no company wants to go to court. They don't. So a guilty conscience needs no accusing. If you were acting a fool and you did some stuff that you weren't supposed to do, work on rectifying that. But know that from our perspective, 9 times out of 10, what we're trying to do is we're trying to confirm dates of employment, and we're trying to confirm if you actually worked at the organizations that you say. Okay. So I hope that was helpful, because I that was my last question. Alrighty, my loves. I love y'all to the moon and back. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you want to join us at the boot camp, please make sure that if you're on IG, you comment the word resume. You will be able to get the link to join us and get all the details for the resume bootcamp. For those of you who are watching on LinkedIn and YouTube, I dropped the link for you to be able to join us there. And I'm looking through the questions that were submitted on IG, but a lot of these questions I already answered at the beginning. So if you have a question and you feel like I did not answer it, I'm going to encourage you to watch this again, because anything surrounding a resume, a gap, toxic environments, that kind of stuff, I talked about that at the beginning. Okay. All righty, my loves. So I want to be respectful of time. We're almost at the hour. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that these answers or this information was helpful to you. If there is someone in your network or someone in your squad who you know is on the job search and you feel that this information will be helpful to them, please share it with them. Remember, we are built for community, not to be on our own. Okay. And I hope to see you at the Resume Bootcamp. And I hope to see you June 25th and June 26th at the Women's Leadership Conference, Scale to 6. So I can't wait to connect with y'all. I love y'all to the moon and back, and I will catch you on the next live. Bye, everybody. Bye, Bam Bam.